Konstantin, hello.
Hi.
The first photo you sent me after you landed in Toronto was from a neighborhood hockey rink, right? How does the professional sports context and the setting in the Ice King inform the feel of the film?
So that was interesting. I don't know very much about hockey. I'm just learning all these things. So I was taking a walk through the neighborhood where I'm staying, and I walk into this neighborhood ice hockey ring, and I realized these two things that are very hard for us to understand in Germany. One is how crazy people are about ice hockey here. I talked to some of the people there, and I guess the closest we get to that is soccer in Germany, right? So, and that was a really important thing for me to understand, that people love this sport so much here that in order to do it professionally, they're willing to go to a small town like Iserlohn, where our story takes place, which, you know, is not a very attractive town. There's not much to do there, but they can play their sport there professionally. So that's their motivation to go. And that was important for me to understand. The other thing I learned while watching them play was that it's really a sport where you have this division between this beautifully elegant leg work that happens on the ice, that's almost like dancing,
skating, the turning
very smoothly, quite feminine, I also want to say, and then this really brutal upper body action that goes on here, that's quite, masculine. And I didn't think about that before, but then I realized that that's metaphorically exactly what we're doing in our story. It's this contrast between a really harsh masculine environment and something very tender and sweet, which is the motivation of the Ice King, of Heinz Weifenbach, who essentially is looking for love, we think.
You keep saying that it's a love story, but it's also a love story for that sport, hockey, right? And at the time your film is set, at the time in the team there were 2 professional Canadian players, I believe. I actually just looked up that team that still exists in a slightly different reiteration, and I believe currently on the roster they have 12 Canadian players, which is huge. So there is that clear German-Canadian connection there. And you're visiting right now in Canada. What is on your agenda in terms of moving this film along?
We've reached out to 2 players that are here. They're out west. I spoke to a very interesting journalist who wrote a very well-researched piece about it, and he spoke to them. And they drew this image of Heinz, the main character, as being this really respected person and quite caring for the team. So that was interesting for us to learn, and I'm curious to talk to them and see what they have to say about those crazy days.
And we're always getting back to Heinz Weifenbach, the Ice King. And he's a really intriguing character, right? You always describe him, and the media and contemporaries always describe him as, small town, 1980s German businessman with big dreams and friends in interesting places, if not high places. The Guardian article that you probably just referenced, that was quite elaborate on that story, described him as gregarious. They also described him as a mustached, cigar-smoking bon vivant who loved hockey and took care of his players, and that's integral in the story you're going to tell. I've already started to think casting for you, but when and how do you think about what your Heinz Weifenbach will look like in your film? What will he feel like, and when will you actually get to casting in your process?
Right. So that process, it starts very early in writing, right? So what our biggest challenge is right now is not so much looking at names who can play this part. Of course, there's a few names floating around, and we're always, we're shuffling the cards there a little bit. But what's more important for us right now is to create that character on the page and deal with this difficulty of someone whose actions are really unsympathetic and he's not very likable. So our challenge is to make him likable. How can we relate to him? And how can we bring out what we believe is this character's, these well-intended motivations, right? This care and this love that we want to bring out in him for his players.
Mm-hmm. Because his players kind of supported him and stuck with him. I mean, he was really trying to keep a team in crisis alive, right? Yeah. Question is at what cost and what decision making, and especially those two Canadian players. I read some of their comments on Heinz Weimar, and they were quite warm even after the demise and the difficulties. And he did accept the team's final decision, because I found it interesting that he wasn't really the one who made the final decision.
Exactly.
The team kind of took a vote, like in the change room, I believe, about the future of the team, and he said, "I accept that." So, and there is that dichotomy of, not in a way probably a slimy kind of small town guy, but also authentic and in his world sort of straight-laced and honest.
Yeah, I think so, or at least that's how we'd like to portray this character, and that's, we're dealing with a fictional film at the end of the day, so it's our version of him. It's what serves the story and what we want to tell with this character, and that's why that's a big turning point when he does let the players vote. It's not his call; it's their call, right? And I believe that's a big change in his life for someone who's always been very, very much in charge of the situation, and a man who, through his dubious ways, has controlled situations. And for him to give that up, I think that's a big step, and that's one of the key moments, I think, where we understand this character.
Mm-hmm. Just to close this conversation, we've previously talked a couple of times about process, where you are at in getting towards treatment, getting towards a script, of course. You've hinted at, that the Torino script writing lab would be a great opportunity. The next big thing in everybody's calendar, international calendar, of course, is the Berlinale, and you're based in Berlin. What does that mean to you? You will be at the Berlinale, I'll be there, but what are you going to be doing?
The best thing about Berlinale is that everyone's in front of your doorstep, right? It's everyone's coming to Berlin, so it's going to be a lot of meetings with people to update on the project. We've created this 30-page document that we're currently sending around, and so I'm just really interested in seeing how the project lives out there in the world, outside of our minds. What's the feedback we're getting, potential funders, just to get a sense of where does this story fit in internationally and in the film world. And that's why these festivals are so important, because you do get to exchange with so many people from all over the place, and you do get a sense of where does my film fit in the bigger scope.
Thank you so much, Konstantin. See you in Berlin.
Thank you.